I am convinced that this book is haunting me because this is the second time I have recorded this video. So let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to Camille's Harem. I am Camille. Welcome to my corner. Today we will be talking about a book that I read last year and that I have been sitting on way too long, and it's been just eating away at me because I hated the ending, and I think this is a good lesson for everyone. So gather around. We're going to tell some stories today. Our book is Darling Girl by Liz Mikowski. Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying that right. So Liz Mikowski. Miss Lizzie, let's have a chat. For our synopsis today, I have a cast of characters to help paint the picture of this book. So this is a modern retelling of Peter Pan, which at, face value seems really fun. I do love a retelling of fairy tales and anything like that. So I was really excited, but I really didn't know what to expect going into this. The whole premise of Darling Girl kind of revolves around the idea of, what if Peter Pan was a deadbeat dad and also a terrible human being? So the book starts off with our main character, Holly Darling. This is Holly. Her grandma is Wendy Darling of the OG Peter Pan story. So in this universe, Wendy Darling actually visited Peter Pan, and it basically became this international sensation. The book was written about her and her brother's experience. So Holly has grown up with, money, notoriety, yada yada, but she wanted to do her own thing, and that's why she lives in the US with her son, Jack, and has a skincare company. You learn that Holly's husband has died when Jack was a little tiny baby and actually had a twin brother that got in a big car accident. Oh my gosh, his leg just fell off. Not unlike what happens to Jack, he gets pretty beat up in the car accident, but his twin brother dies and Holly's husband dies, and I don't remember his name. So that's Robert. Wow, we did it. So that's really bad, very traumatizing, and after this trauma, Holly is living with her mom, Jane, in London. I don't think I have a person playing Jane today, but she will be there at the end, I promise. So she is staying with Jane. This is all through flashbacks, and this is in the Darling home, the original Darling home. It's been passed down through the family. She meets Peter Pan as this young mom, very emotionally just having a really rough time, and her and Peter Pan get jiggy with it, and Holly becomes pregnant. So the other character who's important in this book is Holly's daughter named Eden. And Eden shedding. So Eden is a special little girl because it doesn't explicitly say that she is Peter Pan's child in the beginning. But come on, right? And so Eden, her whole thing, because she is Peter Pan's daughter, she ages really rapidly. Kind of like a Benjamin Button type of thing. But she physically and emotionally, mentally ages at a very fast pace. So while she is younger than Jack, she is outgrowing him, basically. And after she is born, she gets into a really bad accident herself. Because of this accident, Eden then goes into a coma for 10 years. But Holly discovers during all of this that Eden's blood is magical, for lack of a better word, and it has healing properties that she uses on Jack, because remember, Jack also has been, because of the accident, broken, and she basically just uses Eden's blood. without Eden's consent, because she's in a coma, right? To help Jack like be better and be fixed. But she needs to like keep using this blood from Eden in order to keep Jack in tippy top shape. So years go by, and then Eden, which mind you, I can't. I'm sorry, Jack's legs. This is a side tangent. I will say, while I was reading this book, I was like, can we go to therapy, please? Like, I know I say that a lot in my rants, but I'm like, this woman, some of the things that she does, I'm like, ugh. She doesn't tell Jack. She does not tell Jack that Eden even exists. Like, she uses Jack's youngness and memory, like lack of memory and fully cooked brain, to like pretend that Eden does not exist. So Eden is in this coma in England. Jack is growing up in the US, but relying on Eden's blood to not have a broken body. And Miss Ma'am over here just pretends everything is hunky dory. Until one day Eden disappears, and Holly freaks out because she, rightfully so, suspects, oh my gosh, Peter Pan has kidnapped her. This is Peter Pan. And so she has to go back to England to try and find Peter. And that's like a good chunk of the book is they go, oh yeah, because she has to take Jack with her because he is a minor. He's in school and he did something naughty, so he's basically grounded. They're in England, and he soon, eventually, I said soon eventually, like that, those don't make sense. He eventually finds out about Eden, but it really does take far too long for Miss Holly to come clean about it, and it's so aggravating because it's like you could have had a good relationship with each other if you were just honest, but I know you didn't want to traumatize your son, but now you're just making things worse, and he hates you for it. And you can't blame him. Anyway, so much of this book is Holly like mindlessly going around London trying to find Peter Pan, but also trying to find Eden, and she really doesn't have like very good leads in which to do so. So it just feels like a lot of like filler and uncomfortable conversations with her mom Jane, and you're just kind of wondering like, when is something going to happen? During this time, Holly does hire a PI so Carl Malone is our PI. She hires a PI named Christopher Cook, who has one of his hands is gone and has a hook, and his last name is Cook. So you can put two and two together. The world is kind of interesting because it basically implies that Neverland, like if you die in Neverland, you don't really die, and you can kind of go back and forth between the two worlds, but it doesn't really like ever. It doesn't 100% make sense, but like it works. But it basically implies that Cook is Hook, without outright saying it. Weird. It's interesting. Did I think it was necessary? Not really, but it also uses that magic, like, ooh, they're connected worlds, kind of. And Mr. Cook here has like this almost like magical power to seek out Peter Pan because he was probably Hook in a past life. It makes as much sense as how I'm explaining it, which is no sense. So anyway, that is a good chunk of like the middle part of the book. There are like 330 some odd pages in this book, and you do not actually meet Peter Pan until like 280 something. So it takes forever and a half to actually have this like scene where Holly and Peter finally meet up, and you realize like, wow, yeah, he really is a terrible, awful person. So it takes forever for Holly to actually meet up with Peter. He threatens her, and you finally realize, like, he's also trying to find Eden because now that he is in our world, he is aging really rapidly. And so he looks awful. He's using Tinkerbell as like a way to create drugs. So he's a drug dealer too. That is a fun little thing. Like using pixie dust, basically. It's the new cocaine. And he looks awful. He's feeling awful. He knows that he's dying soon. And he knows, like, if he had access to Eden's blood, her magic blood, he would be hunky-dory. And at this time, Holly has only managed to run into Eden like once, and then she disappears because Eden is kind of like, I'm not really chill with you because I was awake kind of the whole time during my coma. The end basically happens with Jack being more or less kidnapped by Peter. So Jack is over here. Holly is freaking out because, you know, now she's realizing in her 30 some odd years of life, maybe 40, I don't know, she's realizing, like, oh, I have terrible communication skills and mommy issues. So that's her whole thing. Holly just knocked my camera over, so relax. So she needs to figure out what to do. She needs to have this, like, showdown, basically, with Peter Pan to try and get Peter back because he's trying to use Jack as a bargaining chip. Meanwhile, Carl Malone, Christopher Cook here, is trying to find Peter himself. So back at the Darling house, Holly is there. Eden has eventually come back, and Jane is there, Holly's mother. They're basically trying to come up with a plan of, like, what do we do? Eden is basically like, I'll do it. I'm the only one that, like, has the capability to fight him because she does have some of his powers. So that makes the most sense. Her and Tinkerbell are, like, planning on going and doing it, right? And Holly is like, I can't have you do that. I'm your mother. And now after all these years, I'm trying to be a good one, I suppose. And through all of this, Jane is there, and Sneaky Jane. I want to read some of the parts of this book that this is, now we're at the end of the book, okay? So they're trying to decide. They're just yapping. Yo gabba gabbing. They just cannot decide what to do. Jane comes in to the nursery where Eden and Holly are, and she has with her, like, 3 crystal glasses of whiskey. And she's like, let's have a toast, because what else would you do when your grandson has been kidnapped by a magic evil guy, right? You have a toast. They're both talking to Holly, like, trying to convince her that it's the right thing for Eden to go, because at this time Eden has aged enough to where she is basically an adult. And Jane, during this time, Sneaky Jane, has taken some of Eden's blood. There was still, like, 1 vial of it left. And she starts transforming into a younger version of her, to the point where she looks young enough to pass off as Eden, because Peter Pan actually hasn't seen Eden, so he wouldn't know any better. Like, he wouldn't know any better. And let's see. This is so... Now that I'm, like, reading back on some of these, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to just hit my face with this book. Okay, so it's Jane at the door. Holly blinks and blinks again. Jane looks ... By the way, there are a lot of ... There's so many ellipses in this damn book that you're like, enough is enough. She can't describe it. Different somehow. Golden. Holly rubs her eyes. Why is her vision blurry? Are you feeling well? You both looked peaked. Come here, sit for a moment, Jane says, patting the bed. Pretend I'm saying this all in a very posh British accent, okay? It's true, the weakness in Holly's legs has increased. Her tongue is numb. She staggers to the nearest bed, reaches out a hand for Eden, who collapses next to her. Mother, Holly whispers, there's something happening to Jane's face. So yeah, this is her face changes, she transforms, she looks like a younger version. She looks like Eden, basically. What did you do? I'm sorry, my darling. What I had to. Or did you think you were the only parent willing to risk everything for her child? So now Jane wants to be a involved mother. Mm-hmm. Only then does Holly see the empty syringe clutched in Jane's hand. Sleep, Jane says. Just sleep. This is where it starts This is page 321, okay? Remember, I said there are like 338 pages in this book. Fatigue is pulling at Holly like a tide, dragging her down no matter how hard she fights. Jane pulls the sheet up, presses cool lips against Holly's cheek. She kisses Eden too. So she drugs Eden and Holly. So they just pass out. Then she leaps onto the window seat. Like, wow, the dyslexia is Lexdexian right now. Leaps onto the window seat with cat-like grace. At the edge, she pauses, and then she dips the F out. So next chapter. So, mind you, previous chapter ends with Miss Holly here, just dead to the world. Next chapter. Someone is shaking her. Someone is calling her name. She hears it as if from a long way away at the end of a very blocked tunnel. Holly, the voice, says, do try and wake up. Decisions must be made. There's not much time. There's something cold on her forehead, on the back of her neck. A biting and sharp scent under her nose. Holly groans. So, they're waking her up. And you find out that Jane has gone to Big Ben, confronted Peter Pan, and brought Jack back, all while Holly and Eden are passed out. It wouldn't be less aggravating if it was just Eden that had been drugged. That sounds awful when I say that. What I mean is, like, it's so aggravating that the main character, I know it's in third person, but this woman is the main character. And in the last, 2-3 chapters of the book, she does not even participate in the end of this book. Like, the climax, the final showdown, she is not there. So Jane's like, yeah, we need to figure out what to do. Jack is there. He doesn't look good. So they're like, shoot, we need to call the police. All while, Holly was just honk schnoo, catching some Z's. A lot of shit went down. They need to call an ambulance for him. And also, Eden is still aging, right? So we still have to figure out, what do we do with this girl that is, she's getting too old. She cannot stay here. And basically has to decide, if she needs to go to Neverland or not. That's basically the only place she can go where she won't pass away quickly, if you will. So they're all talking. Again, just more yapping. And they don't really give a full account as to what happened at Big Ben with Peter. They were just kind of yeah, he was there and he looked really old and he seemed to be sleeping. Maybe he was dead. I don't know. We just left with Jack. Okay. At this point, Peter is too old to do anything. So they just take Jack, which you're like, okay, this, you're telling me this is supposed to be the big bad? Okay. And then they just go back and forth, and finally they decide, Eden and Jane and Tinkerbell, they're going to go to Neverland because Jane has always wanted to go, and why not? She can retire in Neverland. And that's just kind of that whole chapter. So here is the very last chapter. it is kind of like fast forward a few months. Her and Christopher Cook, Captain Hook, they're now dating. And because obviously he was Mr. Hunky Pants the whole time. He was also there at Big Ben. He finally gives Holly the account as to what happened with Peter. So you still have to wait. This is all through Holly finding out after the fact. So she tells him, I want your version, not the official one. And I will warn you again, there's so many ellipses in just this page alone. So bear with me. The silence stretches between them for so long that she's worried he won't answer, but at last he sighs and sits up. After your mother called me, I managed to talk my way past the guard at the base of the tower. He's retired, friends with a few mates of mine, and dash up the stairs. There's no elevator, and the stairwell is ancient, just up and up and up. Cool. But I really needed to know all of that. Thank you. He's quiet again for a bit. And, she prompts, and, ... count him with me. The way he was sprawled out on the floor, I thought he might be dead, he says. I bent over to see if he was breathing, and he grabbed me so fast, so hard, I couldn't get away. Holly's eyes widen, and Christopher angles himself to face her. He looked ancient, all bones and leathery skin, as if he'd run out of whatever it was he'd been using to keep himself together, like a skeleton. And yet he was strong, stronger than me. He bared his teeth and grinned like something out of a horror film. I was slashing at him, and he was still coming, and then, ... What? Holly's holding her breath. He just, ... crumbled. 1 second he was there, and the next he wasn't. In his place was a pile of gray dust, the weirdest damn thing I've ever seen. He shrugs. I thought I'd feel something. I thought I'd recognize him, but I didn't. Okay, well, it's not about you, Christopher. That's it. After years of Peter haunting her dreams and shaping her life, she just can't believe he's just ... gone. She exhales. Christopher hesitates. That's what I've been telling myself. He's wearing a white shirt unbuttoned at the throat and no sweater or jacket, as if he's unaware of the chill. Holly can feel the heat coming off of him. Okay, you. She waits. And yeah, who cares at that point? So Peter just disintegrates, and that's just kind of it. That's just kind of the book. Like, cool. Okay, lovely. Which brings me to the gripes that I have with it. One, it would have been really neat to actually, have Holly see that as the main character. Like, especially with Peter actually dying. Like, that would have been really cool to see and experience firsthand rather than be told, right? The whole premise of the final showdown to me is just so frustrating. The ending of this book is quite literally the epitome of tell, don't show. And in writing, like, the biggest thing that you will hear over and over again is show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Ba, ba, ba. Like, it is, you're beating over the head with it. And then you have, like, the entire last 3 or 4 chapters of this book is stuff that has happened and the main character being told after the fact. You are missing out on everything. And so it feels like this weird, like, every other character gets closure in a sense, except for Holly. Like, she has one interaction with Peter around like page 280 something, and then it's just that. Like, even Christopher, like, he gets his moment of watching Peter die and being like, oh, I thought it would like trigger some sort of memory of my past life, and it didn't. But even that feels more substantial than like everyone else just telling Holly what happened. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. There's so much potential. That's the second thing. Like, so much potential, and it just felt almost a little lazy. and a little bit like she didn't know how to it was like she didn't know what to do in the end with Holly, especially when you have someone like Eden with magical powers, that she was like, like just take her out of the equation altogether. So silly. So, yes, that is my gripe with this book. That is how not to end a novel. For the love of all things holy, please do not leave your main character out on the most important part of the book. Show, don't tell. Like the golden rule of writing, if you will. So that's all I have for today. If you are still interested in reading this book after that whole spiel, why? I can't stop you, but why? And yeah, if you have read this book, feel free to give your thoughts in the comments. And if you have like had any experience reading a book with a similar ending, I would love to know. And also, like, I think something I like to think about too is like, how could it have been better? If you ever come across a book and you're like, why did they do that at the end? I love speculating what could have been done better at the end of a novel. That's all I have for you. Feel free to join our Discord server and hang out with us on there. And yeah, that's all. Bye, Mom.